Hello,
Hi.
everyone. Welcome to Because of Eli. We are here recording at Frosted Nug Productions, and this is our general trigger warning. This podcast discusses death, child loss, suicide, self-harm, mental health, and different parts of grief. We are not trauma professionals, therapists, psychologists, or psychiatrists. We offer no professional advice. We are just two friends with a lot of life experience who want to help others. Welcome to Because of Eli. And for anyone who wasn't here in our last pod, I'm Erica.
Hi, Erica.
Hi. I am a registered nurse and a loss survivor throughout my life. I've spent the majority of my nursing career working within the world of death and dying. I'm not a grief counselor or bereavement specialist. However, my specialty requires me not only to study grief, but bear witness to it in the most awful times for some families. And through that experience, I'm often asked for advice when someone is going through a loss. So here I am to share what I've seen and experienced. And hi, Amy.
Hi. My name's Amy. Thank you for being here. I am a grieving mother. This podcast was born out of grief. My son Eli died on March 21st, 2025. He was just 20 years old. I am a registered nurse. My background is in corrections, substance use disorders, public health, and psychiatric nursing. Mental health care has been my passion throughout my nursing career. I am always advocating for my patients and the community. So, Erica, do you want to tell us what you've done for yourself this week?
Well, I was hoping to have something profound and wonderful to share, but I don't.
It happens sometimes.
But I did get to go running this week, and that's
good.
always something that I feel a little bit better after. One of the things that happened this week was it was raining today for the first time in weeks and weeks and weeks. So I had to run on the treadmill at the gym.
Ew.
It's not my favorite, not my favorite, but it was speed work. So any runners out there know how dreadful that day is. And I've got a specific playlist, and of course it's show tunes mostly. And a lot of Hamilton. And anyone who knows and loves Hamilton knows it's really hard not to dance and sing along. So here I am on the treadmill, and I'm running, and I'm going faster and slower and higher and lower. And all of a sudden just finding myself doing a little dance on the treadmill while I'm running and doing a little mouthing of a song. So, oh, yeah. And I'm like, there are a lot of people here.
Yes. Yes.
I'm hoping I don't end up on one of those gym fail videos as someone. I always think they must wonder, what is she listening to? Because I'm telling you, some of those songs, they are so fast, I just can't help it. And I'm like running so fast, and I'm like, yeah, I look great. And I'm like, I don't look great. But I often think
you're
somebody
out there doing it.
I guess so. I guess I don't really see other people at the gym and judge them. So let's hope they don't do the same to me. So that's my story. Amy, what did you do to help yourself this week?
This week was a little bit different. We did have a death in the family. My husband's grandfather passed away on Sunday night. But I know this probably to maybe people not in the medical field might not sound like a positive, but my husband and I were able to provide post-mortem care to...
For our non-healthcare workers out there, post-mortem care is literally after death care.
Yes.
It's cleaning the body. It's preparing for the funeral home.
Thank you for explaining. But we were able to provide that for him, which is an honor. So it does make you feel good being able to do that. I did bring a few of Eli's rocks that I've been painting just for an example of what I've been doing. I am not an artist, but it does help.
I love them.
It does help. And I always try to paint things that Eli would have enjoyed. So if I'm doing music, I'm doing bands or songs that he liked. Because Halloween's coming up, I did a couple spooky ones. So I have The Thing over there, which was one of his favorites.
Nice.
And Friday the 13th. That was another one of his favorites.
And anyone following us on the socials will see our Instagram picture of the rocks that you did for October.
Yes.
So I did post them up there. So they are there. Go ahead and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are Because of Eli Pod on Instagram and Because of Eli Podcast on Facebook.
Yes. And one of the pictures that we have up there, it's a cemetery picture. Eli is there in cemetery, but that was a big deal for him. That was his 19th birthday. We took him to North Jersey. I forget the town. It just went out of my head. But Friday the 13th was filmed there.
Oh, cool.
So that was huge. That was like so exciting for him. We went to the diner that is in the opening of Friday the 13th. We went to the cemetery.
I don't watch scary movies, so I know nothing. But this is really exciting
Yes.
for you guys.
Yes. So he enjoyed it. Unfortunately, the day that we went, the museum there that has all kinds of Friday the 13th memorabilia and displays was closed due to illness. It's such a little bitty town, and it was closed, so he didn't get to see that. But he ate at the diner, and he was able to go to the cemetery. So that was enough. We literally drove 3 hours so he could eat at this diner and visit the cemetery.
That's cool, though.
Yeah.
I would totally do that, too.
Yeah.
If there was something like that.
Yes.
Not a scary movie, but go Eli.
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing, Amy.
Oh, you're welcome.
So today's episode, we wanted to take some time and share Eli's story, the story of who he was, and Amy's experience in trying to help him through his journey.
Yes.
So before Amy tells her story, I just want to let our audience know this is a very personal story of loss. Our podcast policy that I just wrote and created is tears don't bother us. Mm-hmm. Crying and showing emotion is part of life, and especially life after loss. So we won't be editing any pieces out because of tears, or we feel like that is just part of the authentic experience. So, Amy, when you are ready,
thank you.
Please tell us about Eli.
Thank you. So this is my story of Eli. Eli was an exceptionally easy baby, exceptionally easy child. He was always happy, easygoing. He just wanted mommy to hold him. He was a love bug. He really was. As he got older and he started school, extremely smart, good student. All of his teachers loved him. Classmates loved him. His favorite topics in school were geography and history, and he always loved quizzing me. Mom, what's the capital of some country that I didn't even know because I suck at geography? But he'd want me to name capitals of countries in Africa or European, European countries. He'd want me to name the capitals. I don't even know the name of the country.
Is this a real country or is this a track, Eli?
Yeah. So Eli was not much of an active individual, didn't really love the outdoors that much, but he loved hiking. He loved going on adventures. His favorite vacation of all time was in Maine. We went to Baxter State Park, and that was his absolute favorite, hands down favorite vacation. And I feel like he was hiking before that, but I feel like that really caused him to fall in love with hiking, and he really enjoyed it. He hiked in vans, and he loved jumping across big gaps. I would be like, don't do that. And he would just jump. No fear. Yeah. Yes. No fear. But he really enjoyed it and enjoyed those adventures. At Eli's celebration, I had put out notebooks at each table so that people could write memories about Eli, because as we discussed in the last podcast, hearing new to you stories is exciting. It's like you get a little glimpse into them. You learn things about them that you didn't know before. So a lot of his friends wrote in those books. They've also messaged me as well to share pictures and stories. So I actually have a few quotes from his friends, because I feel like this really does explain, because of course I'm his mom. I think he's fabulous. Everything about him's fabulous. But from other people's perspectives, always made them laugh. He never, I'm sorry, I'm misreading. He made sure no one had a dull moment with him. If I needed help with any schoolwork, he was always there to explain it in ways I would understand. If anyone was having a bad day, he would somehow put a smile on their face. He was very kind. I wasn't doing well in biology, and he donated his bio buck. Extra credit to me. Multiple friends shared how he helped them through their own mental health struggles, which I feel like is common. He's struggling himself, but he's reaching out to help other people because he doesn't want anybody else to feel the way he's feeling. So a lot of people told me that about how he helped them through some really difficult times. So not only was Eli a fantastic son, but he was a great brother. He loved his sister. He always said how much he loved Hannah. He would never do anything to hurt her, and he loved her very, very much. And vice versa, she loved him just as much. He was fiercely protective of myself and his sister. He did love picking on me. He loved making fun of me. He got a thrill out of that. And there was a period of time when it was just the three of us. So I handled everything. And when I was doing tasks that traditionally might be a male's job to do or things that needed to be done, and I just took care of it, he always said, "You're a strong, independent woman." While to others might sound like he's complimenting me, which he probably was, but he did it in a way where he's like picking on me because it would be like, "You're a strong, independent woman. You don't need a man." I love car rides with Eli. He had shared his Spotify playlist with me, so it was on my phone. As soon as he got in the car, he'd grab my phone, pull the playlist up, turn the radio up, and he would just be playing his air guitar, drums, and he was just singing along, and he'd say, "I'm just vibing." That was one of his favorite phrases. Whenever you'd see him, he'd be on the couch or walking around with his headphones. He's like, "Just vibing." And I do miss coming home from work and him greeting me at the door. He'd take my bag, and he said every single day, "Hey, Ma, how was your day?" And I do miss hearing that. So when it was just the three of us, we had a dinner routine. I'd make dinner, we'd take our dinner into the living room, and we'd watch The Office.
Sure.
So we watched that multiple times. So that was about 11 months out of the year, because the month of October was strictly horror movies. We would watch 1 to 2 movies a night, and that ran from October 1st to October 31st. But as the years went on, it extended as early as the end of September, and we'd keep it going through November.
Till you were done all the movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Eli, every day he would research, what could we watch today? Because we never repeated. So all those years we never repeat. I'm blind. There are some movies we repeated, but generally he liked. Yes, yes. But generally he liked to find an obscure movie that no one's heard of. It would be so weird. But he loved that. He loved doing that. So we would do that every October, which we are going to keep that going. We've already planned on what we're watching. So we already got our first few movies picked out. He had an amazing smile. His laugh was contagious. Every night he'd kiss me goodnight. When I left or he left, he always kissed me goodbye and a hug. Eli not only was smart, he was also a jokester, a pun master. That's what I called him. He made me feel dumb a lot because he was so good at it. He loved music. He played guitar. He was an artist. The art came a little bit later for him in high school. He was doing graphic design, and then he went into CAD. And then his part of his college course was art classes, and he really, really got into it, and he really enjoyed those classes a lot, and he was doing really well with it. So things for Eli started changing around COVID, especially at the peak of it when school was virtual, and he started feeling very isolated. He started feeling like his friends didn't like him anymore. He was not seeing anyone. They're not spending any time together. So he would go on to play his PlayStation and his friends would never be on there. So then he started taking it personal, like, nobody likes me, I don't have any friends. And he just isolating more and feeling just worse about himself. That progressed into Eli pacing. And when I say pacing, my boy would wear holes in his socks. Literally, I would have to buy socks just constantly because he was always wearing holes through his socks. And we lived in a rancher at the time, and it was a fairly long rancher, and the living room's on one end, his bedroom's on the opposite end. And he would take every item off of his bed, every pillow, every blanket, his sheet would come off of the bed, and he'd take each of those items one by one, carry them to the sofa. Once they landed on the sofa, he would start it back to his room, each item individually back to his room. He would do this so many times he'd be sweaty, out of breath. One time, my husband, his stepdad, Jack, counted how many times he walked in front of us while we were watching a movie. 150 times he walked past us. It became such a thing that I would ask him to take a break, and he'd get angry because I asked him to take a break. So he would stop, sit on the couch, but the entire time he's fuming because I told him, Eli, because he'd be sweaty, out of breath, Eli, you got to take a break. So he'd sit down. He wasn't happy about it, but he would sit for a few minutes anyway. So because of this with the pacing, I thought, let's try therapy. And I had already been going to therapy, and Eli was comfortable with my therapist. So he started seeing my therapist. He did do therapy, and he would go weekly. I would also have check-in meetings together. The three of us would have a session together to just kind of review where Eli was, things that he's working on, how he was feeling, kind of just like a check-in. We do a periodic check-in. Eli's anxiety continued to increase. So he had been seeing his primary doctor. They had put him on medication. The thought at the time, because he was still seeing a pediatrician, we ended up changing doctors because the point of view, we weren't in the same place. Their goal was to get him quickly off of his medication. This was just a temporary thing. He didn't need the medication. They felt very strongly that he did not need the medication. I felt otherwise. So we did change doctors. And like I was saying, the anxiety kept increasing. So then I took him to a neuropsychologist. So during that meeting, it was mentioned that there was a potential that Eli was on the spectrum, that he had autism. So they wanted to test him. So they did test him, and he did end up with a diagnosis of autism, depression, and anxiety. During that meeting, Eli disclosed that he had been cutting. That was the first time I had heard that. I didn't know that Eli was cutting. Both of my children wear sweatshirts year round, so I never see their arms. So I didn't realize. So I'm the kind of parent, I want you to be able to talk to me, so I don't like to have big reactions to surprising things. So I held it together in the meeting. I still didn't say anything as we were walking to the car. We got in the car, shut the door, and I said, so, and he's like, I know, I already know. So, we kind of talked about that, and he told me that he had started doing it when he felt overwhelmed. After he told me about it, I actually remember the instant, the first time he did it, actually. I had asked him to do his FAFSA. I was actually not home when he started it. So I said, you really got to get on that, start working on your FAFSA. It is extremely frustrating. So I get it, but he got so overwhelmed. He had a meltdown while I wasn't there. And he called me, and he's extremely upset. But he did tell me that was the first time that he did it. But I didn't know that, until after I found out that he had been cutting. So he said that he was only using the razors. So we had taken the razors, locked those up. So going forward, He was on medication. He continued going to therapy every week. He's doing his affirmations. These affirmations are things Eli did not believe of himself. They were things that how people described him. So they're things that people told him, but he never believed any of them. Even as he's doing his affirmations, he's doing them, but he doesn't believe a single word that he's writing. And he would say during his check-ins, he would say that, like, I'm doing it because, and that's again the kind of person that he is. You've asked me to do something, I will do it. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But he did it. He didn't believe it. So we keep going. He graduates high school. Now, this caused a lot of anxiety for Eli because he would share with me that he had no future plans because he said, I wasn't supposed to be here this long. So as a small child, his dream was to design video games. So for his whole life growing up, I'm going to design video games. So he said he has no interest in it now, but he said he just kept going with it because he had no other plans. So he was just doing this thing because I have nothing else. Of course, I'm mom. I want him to have an education. I want him to be successful in life. So how can we get there? So he wasn't interested in trade. So I'm like, buddy, the only other choice you got is school. So he went to school, doing well as always. So on November 4th of 2023, I received a text. Normally I sleep through text messages, so I don't know why I woke up, but I did. I woke up to a text that said, I'm sorry for everything. I know you tried your best, but I'm just a terrible son. I'm sorry. As soon as I read that text, I knew what was happening. So I ran to his room. I opened the door and I interrupted Eli. And he was hysterical. I'm hysterical. Jack's trying to control the situation as much as he can, but nobody's thinking clearly. But I said, Eli, you have to go to the hospital. And he said, I'm not going to the hospital. And I said, you have to go to the hospital. This was real. I can't not take you to the hospital. I did not want Eli sitting in an emergency room by himself for a week while he waited for a hospital bed in a psychiatric hospital, which is how in reality, that's how it is. You are waiting for a bed. So I had a friend that her daughter was going through similar circumstances, and she had recommended us going to a specific hospital that direct admits to their own psychiatric hospital. That hospital is an hour and a half away from us. So we drove an hour and a half to take him to this emergency room so he could be directly admitted into a psychiatric hospital, because I was afraid of how that was going to be for Eli to sit in an emergency room by himself for a week. Yeah. So we walk into Eli was very angry at me about even going in the first place. So he was very shut down on the car ride up. I reached back several times to try to hold his hand, and he wouldn't even reach out for me. That's not who he was at all. I mean, he's just looking out the window. He's completely shut down. And we walk into the emergency room, obviously explain why we're there. Triage nurse comes out to get him. They go into a room. A few minutes later, Eli walks out with the nurse. The nurse walks him a couple doors down. He goes into that room, and the next time the door opens, a gentleman's holding a bag of Eli's clothes out the door, and he said, you can take these and you can go now. I walked up to the door to get the clothes, and when I looked in, I see Eli sitting there in his paper scrubs with just the saddest look on his face. I couldn't say goodbye to him. I couldn't hug him. Nothing. He literally handed me the clothes and shut the door on me. So Jack and I walked out to the car, and I sat in the parking lot for an hour and cried because of obviously what we had just experienced, but also crying because my 18-year-old son is now sitting in an emergency room by himself. He's never done a single thing by himself or for himself. So I'm thinking of all the things. What if they asked him about his allergies? What if they asked him about his medication? How's he going to manage all of this by himself, talking to doctors? When are they going to transfer him? You know, how long is he going to have to be? I had so many questions, but nobody could answer me or tell me anything. So I went home and waited for a phone call, which we finally got about 3 o'clock in the morning. And they explained to us that they were going to admit Eli. Eli agreed to voluntarily sign himself in. So he did understand that. Eli, luckily, always lists me for everything. So he gave them my phone number for medical records. So I was getting all kinds of updates while he was in the emergency room. So that was such a blessing because literally it was almost in real time. I was seeing what was happening. So that helped a lot. At the same time, I was seeing Eli's point of view and how he was feeling and what he felt brought him to this situation. So I got to see all of that. So I kind of got a really good glimpse into Eli's thinking and how he was feeling and life events that he felt like brought him to this place. So I am grateful for that I did get to see that. So from this point, Eli now gets admitted into a psychiatric hospital. And our first conversation, Eli shared with me that he was going to be released in 7 days. So he really hung on to that 7 days. I was pushing for longer. I didn't feel like 7 days was enough. I felt like it was too soon. And I was pushing for him to stay, which really upset Eli a lot. He ended up staying for 9 days. I still didn't feel like that was enough time, but the social worker said, he's attending group. He's being social. He's out of his room. He was doing all the things, which again, Eli is a smart kid. He will do whatever he's told. So he's told to go to group. He's told to meet with the therapist. He's told to socialize. He's doing all of those things because he's leaving in 7 days. And I did go up to see him while he was up there. And I remember when he saw me, he just kept staring at me. And he said, I can't tell if this is real, if you're really here, or did I die? I can't tell what's real. So once Eli was released from the hospital, our relationship never got back to where we were before. Eli was extremely angry at me. He felt like his experience at the hospital was terrible. He said that it caused PTSD. It was very traumatic for him. And we could never get past that. We could never get back to where we were. We would have glimpses of relationship that we had, but it was never the same again. So once he got home, he attended his IOP.
For non-healthcare workers, that is an intensive outpatient, like an all-day therapy.
I'm smiling because Erica is so great about explaining things. So he did his IOP, his intensive outpatient therapy. He felt like he had graduated. So he said, I got through that. I don't need therapy anweanymore. So
I'll check that off the list.
Yes. So I disagreed with him. He needed to continue his weekly therapy sessions. He was also tired of taking medication, just anything that, I felt like I'm doing for his benefit. At the same time, he feels like this is not working. I don't want to do this. I'm tired. I'm tired of doctors. I'm tired of therapists. I'm tired of medication. He told me that repeatedly. I'm tired of doing this. So we had an agreement. If I text you, I need you to text me back within a certain amount of time. That didn't always happen. He's 18, so he would sleep. And he's sleeping well beyond the time that I think that he should be awake. So there were times where I would send Hannah to check on him. Then I stopped doing that because I got fearful of what's Hannah going to find. So I no longer did that. So we decided we were going to get cameras in the house just so I could keep an eye on him. And we also locked all the sharps up in the house. We actually changed the lock on our bedroom door to a key lock so that we had everything in there. So our relationship just continued to decline. We're disagreeing on his treatment and therapy. He doesn't want to go to school. He doesn't want to get a job. He just not interested in getting a license. He just doesn't, he's not making any moves to progress forward in life. So it was decided that he was going to move in with his dad because my point of view is it's not working here. So I'm trying to do all the things and it is just not working. Maybe we need a change of scenery. Maybe we need just a change. And I told him when he left, please make the best of this opportunity. And he said that he would. So he moved in with his dad, but we continued therapy, him and I, therapy with me and him and his stepdad. We continued that. Eli continued his weekly therapies. So there came a point where Eli stopped attending his weekly therapies. He didn't tell me that he had stopped, but I noticed I was no longer getting a bill. When I asked him about it, he said that he missed an appointment. I asked if he was going to reschedule, and he said, I haven't really thought about that. So eventually he stopped his therapy. So Eli didn't know how to live. He never felt like he fit in, and he didn't believe anything good about himself. His last few years here, he really struggled with life and self-worth. I will never be okay again, but I wouldn't trade being Eli's mom. I loved him from the moment I knew he existed, and I will continue to love him until the end of my existence.
When people talk about parts of grief and they say acceptance, that doesn't mean accepting and moving on. It means accepting your new normal, and that doesn't mean it's easy. Your life is not the same after loss. Acceptance is knowing this is your new life and being able to live with that. And it doesn't have to be okay. And your love for him is so evident. And you did all of it right. It doesn't, I'm sure, feel like that because of the outcome, but I really hope one day you can believe that.
Me too.
And we do happen to be recording on World Suicide Prevention Day.
Yes.
And we wanted to share a few things about suicide and stigma around suicide. I do want to specifically say that asking about suicide does not cause suicide. You will not present the idea of it to somebody already thinking about it. What we do with our words can further isolate people that are struggling with suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation, but asking and reaching out isn't one of those things. The language that we use to describe suicide or even avoiding it altogether can impact somebody who's struggling by creating a stigma, or it can make people not seek out help. For example, there was actually a study that was done about people who were impacted by suicide and who had attempts, and questions were asked about what terms fit more, what terms did to them and how it made them think. The words committed suicide. Committed suicide is actually a very antiquated phrase back from when it was outlawed to kill yourself. And it still is in some parts of the world. And culturally, it is something that is seen as a crime. Mm-hmm. But using the words died by suicide makes it much less stigmatized. It really makes it difficult to reach out for help if you also think that the outcome of your thoughts will be seen as a crime.
Yes.
That is something that people really struggle with. Some people use the term successful suicide or completed suicide. Success being tied to positivity.
Right.
This is something that potentially could be glorifying suicide. Completed does something similar, like a task has now been completed.
Yes.
I completed that check.
Yes.
And in particular, this can lead to an incomplete feeling if they didn't complete suicide, if they did not die. Feeling like, oh, I couldn't even check that thing off my list. Right? Incomplete is a failure word. Mm-hmm. So simply referring to it by suicide and died by suicide. A suicide attempt should be used over the term failed suicide. I've heard people say that before.
Yes.
This is another thing that puts it in the successful, unsuccessful category, right? Mm-hmm. It's a positive or negative. So now we're taking that thing and we're saying, oh, you also can't do this. You failed at this thing.
Right.
So somebody that hears that phrase, you can worsen their isolation, their hopelessness, and their depression. Oh, I even failed at this. Mm-hmm. And the term suicidal gestures is one that gets thrown around. What you're doing is softening suicidal behaviors.
Absolutely.
This is when you're talking about actions or preparations someone is doing in order to self-harm.
Right.
This is like they're going to do it. They have a plan. They know it could be fatal. And we're saying, oh, it's just a gesture, as opposed to, no, this is a suicidal behavior.
Yes.
You're suggesting it's low potential, or, oh, it's not as fatal as, you did suicide. You completed suicide, instead of like, you just made a suicidal gesture. It was just, it's okay.
Yes.
That was a hard one.
Yes. When Eli was in the hospital, I did notice multiple times superficial wounds.
Right.
Mentioned multiple times. So I do feel like his first attempt was not taken as seriously because he didn't have, a more serious, in their opinion, wound. But this kid was definitely suicidal.
Yeah. Saying things to soften these behaviors or soften these attempts, because you might think that this person is just attention seeking or manipulative, right? That's often something that you might hear, even if you feel like the intended outcome of these behaviors isn't fully to complete a suicide, or like, if you feel that way, erring on the side of taking them seriously may save a life.
Yeah.
It's better to act like you believe someone and maybe feel a little fake yourself than believe their actions are fake and risk pushing them further into their feelings of isolation.
Yes.
It causes you no harm to yourself to do that, but it could end up fatal for another person.
Yes.
A lot of people, before they die by suicide, will have a change in personality. These are some things to look for other than just feelings of hopelessness and sadness. Those can be present in a lot of people.
Right.
Millions of people say that they've at times had depression so strong that they've thought about harming themselves.
Yes.
But other actions to look for when somebody is in danger, is going from aggressive actions to self-isolation, either one of those things
Right.
in between, changes in mood or behavior completely outside of what they've been going through, giving away personal belongings or cleaning, getting things organized. I've heard that Eli actually cleaned up his room and organized his books, right at the end.
Yeah. And the night before he passed, he had spent the evening with his friends. He had a great night. That's what I was told. He had a lot of fun. He had a great night.
Yeah. And then maybe buying a weapon. Like they might say, oh yeah, I bought this the other day. And that's a signal that something, may be coming.
Mm-hmm.
So just some things to think about. Oftentimes the big emphasis for this person comes when they begin to feel like a burden to others.
Mm-hmm.
They may actually say those words, I don't want to be a burden to those around me. I'm a burden to the people that love me and I don't deserve that. And those words, can be scary for everybody. And it's really scary to believe that about yourself.
Absolutely.
So I'm hopeful that we helped some people out, and maybe somebody who's listening might find it in themselves to help a friend.
Yes. Or maybe open up if you are feeling that way and share that with someone. Yeah. It's not a burden.
We're at least 2 people here who believe that you are not a burden.
Absolutely.
And you deserve to feel safe talking to somebody. So we hope we've helped a few of you feel more validated, more heard and seen. If you're supporting someone who's lost a child, please remember to say their name, talk about them, remember them. And as always, we are here because of Eli. At the end of each episode, we want to provide information on a resource. And Amy, what is our resource today?
So our resource today, I'm really excited to share. Sean's House is in memory of Sean Locke. Sean's House is located near the University of Delaware. It's a free resource for teens and young adults ages 14 to 24 and available 24/7. Erica and I had the honor of visiting Sean's house. The home is very welcoming. As you enter the home, peer specialists welcome you with big smiles and are so kind and friendly. Sean's house, as of today, has had 40,000 visitors and assisted with 167 active crisis cases since opening their doors. Some of the services they offer, it's not just limited to these, but these are just a few: peer support and crisis help, support groups, pet therapy. For the month of September, we're working with R&N Crafty Creations to help raise money for Sean's House. You can find Sean's House on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Give them a follow and reach out if you need them. I would like to thank everyone for joining us. If you have suggestions or stories that you'd like to share, please reach out to us. And now we're on Facebook and Instagram because we finally came up with a name. So, I lost my train of thought.
So be sure to follow us on the socials while Amy's finding her spot. Because of Eli Podcast on Facebook and because of Eli Pod on Instagram.
Thank you.
There, find your spot.
I lost my place, but now we're good. So I just want to say until next time, be good to yourself. Take each day as it comes. Some days are easier than others. If all you do today is survive, that's enough. This was for Eli and for every name you're still whispering. Thank you.